Marama Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a rewrite of Social Security law. Māori are 35% of benefit recipients. Māori unemployment saw the biggest rise in unemployment across the whole country, 2.2% increase in Māori unemployment from 10.6% to 12.8%. So I am standing as spokesperson for Māori Affairs Development in light of what this means and how this impacts directly on Māori. So there is clear agreement from all of us in this House, I think, that the current law is an unwieldy mess and needs to be tightened up. It needs to be straightforward and clear. Absolutely agree. That shouldn't at all be the excuse to therefore put through sneaky reform, especially when it is going to impact mostly and disproportionately on Māori families and Māori babies, and that is why I stand today very glad and thankful for the Green Party that we are outright opposing this bill from the get-go. I want to again highlight agency and the loss of it in this rewrite with the redirection of benefits without consent. And immediately I actually remember, 6 months ago when I wasn't on an MP's salary, what redirection does to a family. And I know that personally, and mine wasn't of a benefit, but it was because when you're struggling and making trade-offs between buying food, paying for the heaters to be able to put on and your hot water to stay on, and paying the rent, there's not a whole lot of choice there. And if you don't have a say in trying to manage something in a really difficult situation, gosh, the stress is incredible. The stress is incredible. It happened to me. I know firsthand that this is not a good and sustainable way to manage and care for our people. And when that happens, when we are causing those most vulnerable to face even harsher situations, it has a cumulative impact. It makes things worse and worse and worse, and as a country, that ends up falling upon all of us, and particularly our children. This law is far too important to sneak anything through that is driven by an agenda. And why should we be clear that there is honesty in what the agendas are in rewriting this bill? That hasn't been proven to us from the national government so far. So again, I have some really clear concerns, especially with the investment approach. It absolutely is narrow. The investment approach will unfairly profile who the government thinks is liable and a risk. Why have none of the government members bothered to mention the word risk when they are trying to celebrate the investment approach? Who is that going to impact on? 60% of children in care are Māori. Even just the fact that you have been in contact with child, youth and family automatically gives you a bad mark against your name and assigns risk to you. This is going to unfairly impact on Māori young people, and of course I oppose this. This is actually profiling in action. This is totally profiling, and it does not take into account any of the wider indicators that need to be considered at all. So I absolutely agree with my colleague Derek Ball in raising clear concerns, not mindless opposition, clear concerns about these very damaging approaches. As again we say, the punitive approach, Māori unemployment has risen 2.2%. The punitive approach is not what we are needing here. We are needing a whole of system review, that addresses the real problems with the law, but also this is a distraction. We do need good, clear law, but I don't want it to be used as a distraction to the underlying issues. It would be better to aim to not have to use this law at all in the future. And I don't want this work program to be taken as the work program to address the wider societal issues. And that's what I'm also concerned about in this rewrite. Māori children, have I gone over? Oh, I didn't get a bell. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Māori children impact most. Māori need to be at the table. Thank you.
Just to make it clear to the member, generally on a 5-minute call, the bell doesn't ring.
Oh,
I did
darn it.
wave my finger at the member to give her a 1-minute warning.
Okay, thank you.
Jenny Salisa.